Is this the Rookie CEO podcast?
Yeah, I think we're in the right place.
Oh, Hev, it's recording. This is Fuzz.
And I'm Hev, and you're listening to the Rookie CEO podcast. So we've got Maria from Saxon HR back again. Was it Saxon? We've changed it though, haven't you, slightly?
Well, we're still Saxon HR Consultancy, but we also have Saxon Safety Solutions now, which is our health and safety and compliance part of the business.
Oh, it's growing day by day.
Well, that's been run by my husband, so he's now full-time in there. But so two separate businesses, but it's a bit of a joined-up service.
Amazing.
We are talking about common compliance failures.
Yes.
And now you're working with your husband. Has there been any?
Oh, I could tell you plenty, but I don't think he'd like that.
What's it been like so far? It's been a couple of months now.
Surprisingly pretty good, actually. I actually thought this would, like you do, don't you? Working with your husband or your wife, you might think, oh, God, this is going to be terrible. Or it could either be one or both ways. I thought, and we're both similar in character in the sense that we're both quite stubborn characters, and I thought that we would just,
clash.
Yeah, we haven't.
Oh, wow.
It's actually gone really, really well. I guess because I just let him get on with what he's doing, and he lets me get on with, because he doesn't know what HR is, and I don't.
Well, I guess it must be quite segmented anyway. Like, of course, there's the overlap, and they complement each other, but actually, neither of you need to be involved in what the other person's doing.
Exactly.
So it is two separate things.
Yeah, we've got our areas of specialism, and that's what we focus on. So no, it's been really nice to have him in the business. I have to say that, don't I? Really, but it has been really nice to.
He can't hear you, but he might listen to this episode.
He might watch this.
Okay. So go back onto common compliance failures.
Yes.
Let's just start off with the biggest one. I'm sure there's one that you constantly see.
Yes.
Talk to me.
Okay, so the biggest one that we see, and this generally comes out almost top every time we do HR audits, is right to work compliance. So businesses, especially when you've just taken on the first employee, you don't always know what you're supposed to do, what you're not supposed to do. Again, this is one of the reasons why you bring in sort of HR expertise in quite early as well to ensure that you're being compliant. But right to work checks need to be carried out as soon as you take on your first employee. There are fines. There's risks of, custodial sentences. There's also your business potentially being shut down as well as a result. So if there's a continuous sort of offence, if you're employing illegal workers, for example, and you're not doing your right to work checks, there's a fine of £20,000 per employee. If you're a repeat offender as such, it could be up to £60,000. What a lot of people don't realise, and I did a little bit of homework before I came down, is that there is a government website on the Home Office website which will actually state and list all of the organisations that are in breach. So I did actually do a little research before I came down, and in Kent alone there are 10 businesses that in Kent that have employed illegal workers between the 1st of January and the 31st of March, so the first quarter of the year. So it's there for everybody to see, and I really wouldn't want anyone to be on that website. So, and it shows how much they've been fined as well.
Oh, wow.
Interestingly,
because that could tank a small business.
Oh, totally, because you're looking sort of like 15,000, 30,000 at a time.
I think there's a lot of public information that people don't really, I think people overlook.
Absolutely, yeah.
Like even tribunals and stuff, that's all public.
All in the public domain.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I was just about to say, funnily enough, 2 in Sittingbourne as well. And I know exactly what those places
That's Saxon HR. Definitely, I think it's one of those.
You'll have to tell me after.
I'll be knocking on their door later.
But that's all public information. So if you feel free to share it on the podcast if you really want to.
I'll keep it confidential. Confidence is my middle name. But, it's so important because as a business owner, I wouldn't want something like that in the public domain. So you have to be really, really careful. But yeah, right to work checks, and even. Can
you dumb that? Is there any way of dumbing that down slightly? So, what is a right to work check? Sorry.
Okay. So, as soon as you're employing somebody, so on or before their first day of employment, you have to verify that they have the right to work in this country, and there is certain documentation such as a UK passport or a birth certificate that they have to see the original, not a copy, but it has to be the original that person, so the business owner or or HR manager or a manager of the business will see it, verify, yes, photographic evidence, that is that person, take a copy of it, and then they sign and date to verify that they've actually seen the original. That is right to work verification. Some employees that are not from the UK may have a share code, which is issued by the Home Office when they have settled status. So you then can go on a government website, put in the share code, and then it tells you whether they have the right to work in this country or not.
And if you're subcontracting, is it a similar process?
No, because you are not employing that person. So that relationship is not employer-employee. So if you don't need to verify their right to work because they are not an employee of your business. You can do if you absolutely want to cover that.
So you do have the right to?
You don't necessarily have the right to, but you can ask if that person is willing to share that information. But the important thing here is that you're not liable because you're not the employer. You're not employing them.
I was going to say, so there's no responsibility for you to check because it falls on them.
No. So if you've got somebody that's a freelancer, you're subcontracting, but as long as the contracting company, so if you've got subbies that are working for a contracting company, a contractor basically, they have the responsibility to ensure that person's...
I guess it's a bit like tax and stuff in that situation. It's up to them to be paying and declaring their income and stuff. It's not your responsibility.
Yep, absolutely. So that's the one that we see, and when we tell people, we'll go through an audit and we'll point this out to them in a report. They're like, oh, but we took copies of that. It's like, no, you have to have sight of the original, and you have to then sign it.
This is just a complete assumption. When people start in businesses, they do drag in family members, and sometimes it is the family members that are the first employee.
Yes.
I think they just go, well, of course they're from the UK. I've seen their passport, but they still have to follow those same procedures, same processes.
If they're an employee of that company, the employer, so the business owner, has that responsibility. The liability will lie on them. Absolutely.
And it's the same with an actual employee contract. They forget about that.
Yep.
They just think,
and actually, I'm sure you'll agree. Whenever people are telling me about kind of things that are going like problems in the business and stuff in terms of employees, actually the family businesses are the worst.
The majority of our issues when it comes to businesses are family-run businesses because of those very reasons. So shareholders, often we see them not having something as simple as a shareholders agreement, and when two members of the family, because we know families, have arguments, they have disagreements, they break off and they want to do their own thing. This is a major problem. If they haven't got a shareholders agreement, it becomes a really long-winded and really complex sort of issue to deal with. If they don't have contracts of employment, again, and also job descriptions as well, because you're holding certain people accountable for certain parts of the role and their responsibilities. If you haven't got that in place, even though you might be family members, these are when disagreements and fallouts actually happen. Funnily enough, we do tend to see that we've got a fair few family-run businesses, and that's often where a lot of the issues do sort of come and do lie, really.
I've got a friend... and she had her mum working for her, actually had none of this kind of in place, no contracts and everything, and she ended up paying thousands through court because the business had kind of slowed down and she needed to let the mum go, and the mum did not take it well and had to go through a really expensive process to kind of let go. And actually she said she had business, well, she nearly lost her business because then she had to pay all these court fees and solicitor fees. So I think, people, you think the best of everyone, don't you? But sometimes I think money can bring out the worst in people. So it's better to err on the side of caution.
Just to kind of like leeway back into the actual subject. When it comes to common compliance issues, people very heavily rely on their insurance with these sort of things. Do you find that as well? Is that a thing that...
So we're seeing more and more of our clients that are saying, especially if there's an employee issue that we think is on the grounds of potentially sort of growing or becoming perhaps an issue where it might become formal or even grow to an employment tribunal sort of situation, they do say, well, we've got our insurance. And that's great. I'm not knocking that in any way, shape or form. What we are finding with some, and not all, some of the insurances that they have a named solicitor or a named sort of, firm of solicitors that has to be the person, and they can sometimes, again, I don't want to kind of diss anything or anyone, but they can sometimes be like these call centre type of places, which we see can be very risk adverse. So they would rather the company just, settle, make that payment, because it's more of a, by making a commercial decision rather than fighting it, and they'll base it on, more than 60% or 70% likelihood of winning your case in an employment tribunal. But, it's not supporting, I don't think it's as supportive to the employer as it could be. What are the best ways and the best insurances are directly with a law firm. If you're actually, and you've got your employment tribunal insurance legal costs with a particular named practice, that's the best way of doing it.
Yeah.
So we've actually linked in with one. So we haven't announced that yet, but that's two ways. So we're going to be doing that.
Special, that one.
Yeah, that is to be continued.
Hey Hev, have you heard of IT Manager Services? They're an IT support service based in Kent.
Yeah, I've been with them for over a year now. I love being able to just call them at any point and they take over my computer and fix the issue so much quicker than spending hours on Google.
Why have you kept that to yourself all this time? Right, I need to sign up to these guys. What's their website?
It's it-ms.co.uk, or you can call 01634 218 362.
Just going back to the compliance side of things, I imagine something that probably is a big mistake for startups is a lot around data protection, because I know there's a lot of marketing tactics people don't realise that they're actually breaking data protection and stuff like that. So is there some common ones that you've seen?
So I'm no GDPR expert or data protection expert. Again, I use a GDPR expert who helps us with some of our policies and helps us with our clients as well. He's very good actually, but some of the common themes are, and I'm just taking it from an employee perspective. You're supposed to have an employee privacy policy. So as soon as you employ somebody, it's what do you do with their data? How do you share their information? So taking my employees, for example, I have an external payroll provider. So I'm going to share their national insurance number. I'm going to, all their information and their data in order to pay them, to get them on a payroll and a pension scheme. So I have an employee privacy policy in place stating exactly where I might provide their information or share their data to a third party. So that's really important. Things like on your website, you have to have a privacy policy. There's certain policies that you will need, and there's certain sort of data protection, marketing, when it comes to marketing, and then passing on details to third parties.
There's the one thing that we kind of have a blocker on sometimes is they don't have a social media policy with their staff.
Yeah.
And they're struggling to get their staff more involved with their marketing because there's not actually a policy or an agreement in place.
Yeah. I've actually seen, I don't know if you've heard of this, but I've actually seen in the past where I worked for a company, or I heard through a company, I should say, I didn't work directly with them, where because their employees were posting adverts, job adverts, I should say, or just making posts in relation to their organisation, to promote their organisation, that they wanted them, when they left the organisation, to shut down their LinkedIn posts, to their profile, which is that's just wrong, because that belongs to the individual. It doesn't belong to the employer. So there's certain things about social media. That's a really good example actually there, Sam, because it belongs to the individual unless they're setting up a profile specifically to use for work. So there's lots of marketing sort of data that is shared and can be shared, but it's always get your ducks in a row.
And I guess getting the permission. So okay, if you are taking team photos, have you actually got everyone's permission before you share that online?
Yeah, you've got to have their consent to be able to do that. I worked for an organisation where we had to literally send out written consents to everybody. We had a team away day, with departmental team away days, which were involving 20, 30 people at a time. Had to get their consent in order to put it on their website, or for me to put it on the social media, because people can say, no, actually, I don't want to. And there could be a lot of reasons for that. It could be, domestic reasons. It could be, relating back to sort of safety, for example. You can have somebody that's fled, a situation, or someone's under, some kind of police protection. You just don't know. There's lots of reasons why someone does not want their identity to be posted and plastered all over social media.
So we've covered compliant, like as in GDPR, data protection, and obviously right to work.
Yeah.
Is there any other big?
Yeah.
Could we be here all day?
There's probably two or three,
Okay.
but I think you actually hit on it sort of early on about employment contracts. So what we do tend to see is documentation is not compliant. There's a lot of that. We see that quite a lot. Employment law changes quite regularly. There's two parts of this actually. The first part is around the documentation just being out of date, and what's really important is that you as a business, if you want to ensure that your employees are performing at the right level, you ensure that their standards and their conduct is at the right level, and then you're having to do something about it when it falls behind those standards, your documentation has to be right. Your policies need to be in place, your contracts of employment with those expectations have to be really, really clear from the beginning. What we often see is people don't know and don't realise that you have to issue a contract of employment on the first day of employment or before their first day of employment, not 2 days later or a week later. It scares me when the amount of people that I hear that are not issuing their contracts on or before that first day. So there is a fine that you can have. I think it's 6 weeks, equivalent of their 6 weeks of their salary. There is a fine that can be issued by the Employment Tribunal for doing that. But then, as an employer, why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you want to give terms and conditions and make it clear from the beginning what that person's entitled to? But it works two ways. It's what your expectations as an employer are, as well as the employee, what they can, what their expectations are. But twofold, the second thing that we see is people utilising perhaps freelancers or contractors as employees. So it's misaligning the relationship, the employer-employee relationship and the contractor relationship. So if you're using somebody on a regular basis, the same hours, the same days, the same salary or the same pay that you're paying them, there is that very fine line. Are their employment status, are they an employee or are they actually a freelancer or a contractor? So you've got the tax and also the that sort of risk, and then obviously the legal risk around that, especially when someone leaves and they're claiming like notice pay or holiday pay. It's like, well, actually you're not an employee, you're a contractor, but actually I've been doing this.
Outsourcing is a very common thing. It's growing and growing nowadays.
Yep, absolutely.
What's your biggest piece of advice then to ensure that is differentiated between that and an employee?
Yep. So an employment contract will set out terms and conditions. So your start time, start date, how much you're going to be paid, the hours that you work, what your job title is. With what we call a self-employed agreement or a contractor, you're making your language that you're using within that agreement. It's not a contract, it's an agreement, and you're making it really, really clear that this is what we're expecting of you, this is what you're going to provide to us. It's a service that you're providing, and you're making it really clear, and you're not using the words employee. There should absolutely be nothing in there that says employee, because if there is, I'll just rip it up and throw it in the bin if I was you. So there are certain documentations that even with a subcontractor or even a self-employed person or freelancer needs to provide.
So in regards to HR, then you can introduce it before you employ, because if you want to have a very clear, is it something that you provide, like an agreement?
Yes. Yep. So we do quite a lot of work for companies that don't necessarily, they might have one or two employees, but they use a lot of self-employed people or contractors. And it's that very clearly distinguishing between employee and contractor. And they have separate agreements. So we put those together. We always recommend like a code of conduct. So you cannot govern and manage freelancers or contractors through your internal policies. So like a disciplinary policy will not be applicable
Of course.
to a contractor. But what we recommend and what we put together is a code of conduct. So what that just sets out expectations and
Yeah.
the level of expectations as well.
Oh, good to know. Noted. Have you got any final questions?
I know, my brain is blown, yeah.
My brain is blowing up big time. Thank
I've
you again.
overwhelmed you with all this legal
This is
jargon.
exactly why we have experts
Exactly.
in it all, don't it? Because you, like as a business owner, you can't do it all, and you can't be expected to know everything. And
Yeah.
it's the classic thing of you don't know what you
Yes.
don't know.
And this is what we say to people. I don't expect for a client to come to me and know, because why would they need me in that case? I'm no expert in marketing. That's why I come to you. I don't diagnose any illnesses that I have. That's why I go to a GP. You go and utilise the people because
Don't
they're
lie,
trained.
you've
and they've
Googled a
got
few
skills.
times. You've Googled a few times,
might,
what's this
yeah.
lump?
Yes, that's always the worst, isn't it? 'Cause you look at something, you've got a little lump, and that's it, you're terminally ill.
ChatGPT is like, well, you're already dead.
Exactly, done. All right, it's too late. But utilise the skills because people have trained, people
Yeah.
are experienced, they've been doing it for a long time. Can I give you a quick story? I remember somebody who I'd only just met, really, where she'd actually come to me. She said, she asked me a question, I answered it. And she said to me, if only I knew you, like a couple of weeks ago, she said, I took about 3 hours researching on Google this question because I needed to find the answer. She said, it took me like a whole afternoon. She said, you've answered it in like 2 seconds. And I said, because I know what I'm talking about
Yeah.
and I'm experienced. If I asked you a marketing type of question, you'd be able to answer it. I wouldn't, because I wouldn't have a clue.
And Google will just give you so many different answers.
Exactly. It's not
Yeah.
always accurate, or it gives you like versions of this. If it's this, it's this. If it's this,
Yeah.
it's this. We ask the right questions to try and get to the root of the problem. We will know what type of questions to ask in order to get the right answer. And there's absolutely no black and white in HR. There's always lots and lots of grey area.
Yeah. I was like, when I was still hairdressing, people would be like, how have you just made that look so easy?
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, it's easy to me
Yep.
because it is easy to me,
Yeah.
but it's hard for you because it
I've
is
got no
hard for
hair.
you.
That would be impossible for you.
But that's what you do. You train so it's easy for you.
Exactly.
And that's what
Yeah.
people are paying for. They're paying for you to find this a simple task.
Absolutely.
That is an awesome way to end the episode.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Maria, again,
Thank
for coming on.
you.
Oh, I've enjoyed it. Thank you very much for inviting me.
And
Amazing.
come again next week for
See
another
you
episode.
later. Bye-bye.
Brilliant. Thank you. Bye.